Welcome to part 7. And here's another field level, but again, it doesn't feel boring because it has its own completely unique things to it. We start out rainy, so it's all like first off, it has the music from A Link to the Past when you're in the rainy section. Only it sounds better because it's in GameCube instruments. I hate this section of the level. This is possibly one of the worst parts of the game. It's not intuitive at all that you can block the fire with your shield. I mean, you could block fire in your you could block fire with your shield in Link to the Past, but only once you got a shield that's upgraded. I mean, this shield that you have now is red, but it's not circular and it's not an upgraded shield, so it doesn't feel intuitive that you can block like much more realistic looking fireballs. So I ended up just using my Lynx as a human shield for her. Fortunately, you can give her hearts that are dropped from the grass to fill her up. And in the multiplayer, she has the same amount of hearts as the amount of players that are playing. But it's just a tedious escort mission. Like, she doesn't even have a weapon. I mean, it would be nice if you could loan her the weapon of Purple Link so she could automatically attack any enemies in front of her, but I guess that would be too interesting. And of course, like, you wouldn't be able to do that in four player because everyone would be playing as a Link. But yeah, like, it sucks that this is her only role in the game, to be an annoying escort mission. Why was she even there? And she says that the soldiers, like, she and Talon say that the soldiers have been acting weirdly. That brings up a dark implication, because just like in Link to the Past, the guards are implied to be the actual human guards, and Link is killing them because they're just brainwashed human beings. And you don't see any guards in Hyrule Castle, like in the credits. And that implies that rather than them being brought back to life or something like that, they're all just dead. Like, at least in Link to the Past, like, Link wished upon the Triforce and brought back all the guards. Like, this is another instance where you have to fall into a specific hole and memorize the level design below the hole so you know where to go. That's what the mystery item box looks like, by the way. The blue spear. This is really fun. It controls surprisingly well, too. Like, it's much better than in the 3D games, where it controls like a tank. Here, it just controls, like it keeps on going ahead, whether you press ahead on the control stick or not. But otherwise, it controls just like Link does. It turns on a dime, and it automatically cuts grass when it runs across it. So that's cool. And, like, it's very convenient that Link doesn't have to get off the horse and pick up the... It's funny, like, you teleport behind the fence. But yeah, Link doesn't have to get off the horse. The carrots just automatically get fed to the horses. And then you annoyingly lose the horses out of nowhere because the game decides that it would be overpowered. I mean, at the very least, it could let you keep the horses for this room, and then the horses would just naturally run out of time because there are no carrots here, but instead it just randomly robs you of the horses at the exact same time that it decides to stop raining. I love that the boomerang can cut grass in this game. Like, that's another creative expansion on the boomerang concept. And, like, it's a lot more satisfying to be able to cut so much more grass at once because you can control multiple Links at once. And, like, a running gag in this game is that you have the signs that are made by Tingle, because he thinks that if he does enough good deeds, he'll get turned into a fairy, which he wants because he's obsessed with fairies. I guess he's like a sort of fairy scientist or something, except he can't study the fairies directly. Like, he would love a fairy fountain. I wonder why he hasn't found any of those and just decided to live there. But anyways, like, it's a running gag where you'll find signs, and Tingle has, like, that's good game design, isn't it? Like, scouting you to go into a place that you can't do anything in yet. But anyways, Tingle makes signs in places that he has no idea about, so it's really amateurish, but it does help. Like, it doesn't help at all in Lost Woods, obviously, but like later on, it kind of will. But it's such a contrast because otherwise, Tingle is always about, if I collect enough rupees, I'll turn into a fairy. But here, he's about doing enough good deeds, but he also tries to collect force gems because he's still greedy. But yeah, like, there's stuff you can do, like, you can pull on logs in order to, you can pull on them with the vertical formation, and you can actually pick them up if you face them from the side with the vertical formation and press R. Something that I'm constantly doing in this level is that when I'm in the middle of picking up one of those boulders that you needed the power glove to pick up in Link to the Past, like, you can just, like, mash the L button, like, move around all over the place. Like, you can just rotate the control stick and mash L and stuff, and you can just immediately throw the boulder instead of having to wait through the tedious lifting up animation. So that's good. It's a good thing that I don't constantly have to deal with the force gems from the sparkling fountains disappearing before I can collect all of them. Like, it's good like that. Like, they don't make too much of them. The problem is that the fountains are really dickishly placed here because you're under a time pressure to press all the switches before it's too late and the bomb explodes, but you're obviously not going to have the time to collect all of those force gems. I hit all the switches because I was expecting that I would get a whole bunch of force gems as a reward, but instead, what did it do? It just let me escape. Now, I let the bomb go off here because I expected that it would leave a huge amount of force gems behind, like, you know, the last time that I saw a bomb like this, in the mountain. But instead, the game design tricks you because the same thing doesn't happen again and it doesn't leave behind any force gems whatsoever. So that entire room, aside from having the force gem fountains that you probably didn't collect all the force gems of in the first place, that entire room was basically a pointless waste of programming. And again, I hate the blocks. For some reason, you can't push them at all. It would make sense if there was like a higher elevation floor that you couldn't push them over. Like that would make sense. Like, you can't push it up a staircase. But instead, you just can't push it along a flat surface one particular way for no reason. And again, like, because of the non-linear level design, you're kind of enticed to go here before you can actually do anything. I hate that there are enemies that are completely invincible, and you have to go out of your way to get an item later on to defeat them. Although that makes it all the more satisfying when you finally do defeat them with that item, which was the point. But it just doesn't entirely feel like a game design to have enemies running around that you can't attack and they attack you. Like, it's bad enough I get that from the anti-fairies. Like, the anti-fairies have a fun challenge where they move around diagonally, and so you can predict where they're going to go based on where they first bounce off of. It's always been like that since Zelda 2. I didn't bother running over all the holes and getting every single chest because I have enough money to beat the level anyways. Like, that's the problem with this game, is that you don't have anything to do with the force gems you collect most of the time. At least in multiplayer, like, the goal is to compete with your friends to get as much money as possible. So you want to collect as much money as possible so that you can win. As meaningless as winning is, like, it's as meaningful as winning in a multiplayer game. Yeah, you dash over the holes with Pegasus boots outside to get there. But like that is a pretty creative concept. Like, you make the Pegasus boots level 2 by letting you run across gaps, which is like, it could be a reference to the boots that let you walk across certain parts of the water in Zelda 2, and it's also could be a reference to the hover boots in Ocarina of Time. Or more likely it's not intentionally referenced to anything, and Zelda has just been going on for so long that it just completely by accident, like, reuses ideas. Just like in Sonic Mania. And it's not like you get to enjoy the hover boots for that long anyways, because you're forced to replace them with the bow later on. But yeah, it is satisfying to finally be able to defeat those spiders. Although it takes multiple arrows, and they're erratically moving, so it's hard to get them to face you so that you can finally shoot at them. Like, these guys have their Wind Waker designs. And here you get the level 2 shovel for the first time. It makes, as you can see, it makes a sound that gets louder the closer you get to the hole that you want to dig up. But the problem is that maybe the sound just isn't loud enough, even though I had the volume up when I was playing this game. Or maybe it just not, maybe it's just not playing, but it took forever for me to find the right hole. It doesn't help that there's a whole bunch of decoy holes that waste your time. It's especially an infuriating waste of time when you get to a decoy hole that either has nothing in it, like that one hole, or it has treasure chests with nothing in them. Like, why would you even put that in the game? I forgot to edit this out. I was bothered at this point during the recording, so I just stood there. Yeah, like, I was given some chocolate at that point. But anyways, like, it is really satisfying to collect that giant Force Gems thing. And see Tingle fail to lift it up because it's so big. But unfortunately, again, there's nothing you can do with the Force Gems in this game in single player. Like, you can't buy any upgrades. I mean, it's not like it'll matter because you're only allowed to get one item at a time. So, even if you upgraded your item, you would have to give it up and lose the upgrade anyways. Like, there's no rupee sinks, like you can't, you have infinite ammo for the bombs and arrows, so it's not like you can upgrade that. It's really satisfying attacking enemies with downward thrust. And at least here, like, it's a lot more fair with the way the ball and chain is because it's swinging a lot slowly. A lot more slow. But when the house gets destroyed, it becomes impossible to collect any of the items inside of it anymore. Like, you don't even see rubble of it, it just vanishes. And for some reason the soldiers explode when you defeat them, which is weird. But yeah, here's where you start having the subplot where the four Knights of Hyrule, not to be confused with the Knights of Hyrule from the backstory of A Link to the Past, they're just reusing the image. Like, I guess they decide to get different Knights of Hyrule. The Knights of Hyrule were possessed and cursed to act like evil monsters. And now you have the spirit of one of the Knights of Hyrule talk about what happened. And you have to gather the 4 royal jewels, which look like the elemental stones that you collect that represent the elements in Minish Cap. Like, it's not an original idea by any means, but there's something really charming about it. Maybe it's the bright colors. But you need to collect those 4 jewels so that you can rise the Tower of the Winds to beat the game. But it feels really pointless because you could easily just, like, they could have easily programmed it so that those jewels didn't exist and you just progress to the Tower of the Winds. But I guess they need to make a secondary objective to getting the maidens so that it can feel even more satisfying, so that you can have more stuff to do. But yeah, you don't get to do much with the Force Gems in this game in single player. Like, sometimes you can buy, sometimes you can pay for, occasionally you can pay for a gambling chance to get more money. But it's not like you can buy potions, because why would you need potions when you have an infinite amount of Force Berries?